Kapadubhyascha Kripashinubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Prabhupada. So the reason that I decided to call this class crying out, calling out, is because sometimes, I'm sure you've been in this situation. Have you ever been, you must have experienced this, that sometimes you feel like nobody can understand you, nobody knows what you're going through. And you try to tell people, and it's like, it just makes it worse. Because they just like, get over it. They tell you, get over it, or who cares, or, you're just a sissy, or, the world's a horrible place. Just, just tolerate it. And you feel like nobody can understand what I'm going through. And when we're in situations like this, and you'll see this in the prayers of Bhaktivinoda, he's telling Krishna, because he knows Krishna will understand. And there's like, I'm frustrated, nobody understands. So Krishna understands because he's super soul, he's within you. So he understands, right? That's the beauty of prayer. Even though you're saying it, in a sense, you don't have to say it, but you are saying it, even though he knows how you feel, because you just want to let him know that you want him to know that you feel this way, you're frustrated, and you want to tell him how you feel, and you're asking him for help to deal with it, because sometimes feelings are like frustrating, or you're having a hard time dealing with them. You're just sad, or you don't know what to do. You don't know to turn left or right. You just feel bad. So Krishna, help me. This is and the world's crashing down on me, and I don't know what to do, and nobody seems to care, and nobody seems to understand, and the people who are supposed to understand don't, and everything's getting worse. And so that's also one of the beauties of prayer, and also the idea, it's not an idea, it's a fact, but I'll just use the word idea, the idea, Krishna as your friend. Krishna's your friend, your real friend, your only friend. And he will hear you, and he knows what's going on. And that's what a real friend is, right? I mean, who could be a better friend than the one who knows, the one who feels everything, and the one who's willing to help you, and the one who will give you some kind of peace when things are difficult. So you can see that in the prayers of Bhaktivinoda Thakura. Also, you can see it in other prayers, that there's this kind of helpless frustration, like I can't turn to anybody. That life sometimes gets so difficult, and sometimes I wonder how the atheists deal with this. What do they do? Because we can turn to Krishna and just call out and say, Krishna, help me. You know what I'm going through better than anyone, and I'm having such a hard time. But part of the process, or you could call it spiritual therapy, is to tell Krishna how you feel, because that also helps you deal with it. And it helps you know that Krishna knows, and when you ask for help, he'll give it to you to help guide you through difficult times, which there will be. And sometimes I think these difficult times are actually necessary for us. That we need to go through them so that we turn to Krishna. There's a song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He's telling Krishna's whole life story of how bad he is and the bad things that he did. And it's all in the mood of remorse and regret. And who else are you going to tell these things, right? Because all the remorse and regret ultimately is a result of turning our back on Krishna. So he's kind of the best person to tell, isn't he? Because we're suffering like this because we turned away from him. We're suffering like this because we thought we could be happy without him, isn't it? So it's like, okay, it's kind of you go to Krishna with your tail between your legs and go, okay, I'm suffering, and you know it, and you know why I'm suffering is because I turned my back on you, but I understand you're my best friend. You're the only one who understands me. And therefore, I come before you to reveal, to open up my suffering. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur, many of his songs, that's what he's doing. And even in one song, he says, I've come here to tell you my story of my woes, of my suffering. It's a prayer to Krishna. Here's the life story of one suffering after another. And I need you. I need you. I can't deal with this. It's too difficult. So that's the idea. So that's why we named this class, crying out, opening up. And we remember that Srila Prabhupada said chanting is crying to Krishna. So I think it's always good to remember that. Crying, you can cry for many reasons. You can cry because you're happy. You can cry because you're helpless. You can cry because you're suffering. You can cry because you need something. And within that statement, chanting is crying for Krishna. Also the idea of praying is crying for Krishna. Crying can be for so many reasons. And ultimately the crying is, Krishna, I need you because I can't deal with this. Now, it's not that life is bad all the time and we're emotionally distraught, but life in general is difficult to deal with, even when you're feeling happy. It's just existentially, there's problems. And so it's just natural to be in that mood of praying to Krishna to help me deal with this. Or sometimes the prayer can be, maybe there's nothing wrong, but you know something will go wrong at some point. So Krishna, and this sounds kind of psychotic, I guess. You're praying to be able to deal with future disaster. Someone might say, are you neurotic or what? But the fact is, Krishna says you should have that philosophically, you should have that vision that there will be disaster and there will be difficulty. And I need to prepare for it. As a fireman or a military soldier would prepare for disaster. And so sometimes we even pray like that, Krishna, when something happens that's difficult for me, I pray you give me the strength to deal with it. So that's the mood. So I thought before we actually continue our reading, that we would just lay that foundation for today's class, which is still going to end at the same time because I have to go. So Nadia, do you want to bring up, did we finish? Can you bring up the last verse we were on? Because I want to just make sure we've covered everything on that verse.
Okay, just a moment.
Before we go, that was the 8th verse. You brought up that's the verse before. That was the 8th verse. The 8th verse of this, we could call it the couplet, I guess. So I'll just read the translation. Gopinath, you are indeed the wisest person. Please look for a way to bring about auspiciousness for this fool. And please do not consider this servant an outsider. So there's contained within this prayer, there is, you could say perhaps a doubt on his part that Krishna may think, who is this fool praying to me? He's an outsider. Why should I? He's not really a devotee, outsider. What does that mean? He doesn't have devotion. He's not a real devotee. So why should I listen to him? I'm sure some of you, maybe all of us at some point, wonder if I'm praying to Krishna, does he actually hear it? If he does hear it, does he want to do anything about it? Because after all, look at me. I'm not such a great devotee. Why would he care? So that's kind of that mood. Krishna, I know I may not be, I know I may be a fool. Not I know I may be. I know I'm a fool. And I know I'm not really a devotee, but I still need your mercy. So it's kind of, you could say it's a form of pacifying yourself by acknowledging that Krishna will reciprocate, even if you are a fool, and even if you don't have much devotion or you don't think you have much devotion. In saying what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, we could rephrase it as a philosophical statement that in spite of the fact that I'm in ignorance, in spite of the fact that I'm not really devotee, Krishna will still hear my prayer. And we told the story on Monday of a devotee who told the story that while massaging Prabhupada, Prabhupada asked him to pray for him, which kind of shocked him. And his first reaction was, how can I pray? I'm not really even, like, why would Krishna listen to me? What to speak of pray for Prabhupada? It's like he doesn't need my prayers, and what will my prayers do? But even before that thought process was, will Krishna even hear me? And so Prabhupada said, you're a devotee, he will hear you. And I think we had gone into a discussion about what it means to be a devotee. Or we had that discussion previously. So Prabhupada used a broad definition of devotee when he would say we're devotees. Sometimes he would say we're pure devotees. So he's using a very broad definition of that. You are trying to be a devotee, and because you're trying, you are. Something like that. So Prabhupada's telling him, no, you're a devotee. So Krishna will listen. So that's a confirmation that even though I'm a fool, even though I don't feel like I have much bhakti, Krishna will listen. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, don't consider me a non-devotee. That's basically what he's saying, right? I'm praying to you, I'm asking, please don't write me off and consider me a non-devotee just because I think like a non-devotee sometimes and I act like a non-devotee sometimes. At heart, I'm a devotee, at least at heart, I want to be a devotee. So please consider me your devotee. Please consider this prayer. And yes, I am a fool. That is my qualification. But at the same time, because I'm a fool, I'm going to you. I need you. That's why I need you, because I'm a fool. So he's in one sense, you could say he's saying, because I'm not much of a devotee and because I'm a big fool, all the more reason that I need you to hear my prayer, because my prayers are more urgent, right? What do you do when somebody, somebody's suffering a lot, their condition is critical, in the hospital, they go first, right? The worst people go first and say, okay, you're okay, Tanya, you'll live through today. This person, if we don't get him in the next hour, he'll die. Okay. And then you go, okay, take him as long as you get me in 24 hours and save me next. Okay. So it's something like that. And we've talked about this before, that in order not to get discouraged, then we flip things around, that the worse I am, the more I need Krishna. And the worse I am, the more Krishna will give mercy. So although it sounds like a paradox, and it's not, I'm not saying this to rationalize failure or rationalize not trying, but the fact is that becomes the qualification. The worse situation you're in, the more intensity your prayers will have. And the more you become qualified because of the lack of qualification, right? The poorest people get welfare, not the richest people. So that's the idea. So just remember that in a welfare state, the people who are worst off are the ones who get the welfare. And so if you feel, well, I'm very bad off spiritually, well, you are the one who will get the welfare, Mahaprabhu's welfare. That's who he gives it to. And he had a hard time giving his welfare to the well-off because they didn't think they needed it. So don't ever think your fallen condition is a disqualification. In many ways, it actually becomes your qualification if you allow it to be, if you don't give up, if you don't become discouraged or helpless. So we could say here in this verse that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is actually using the disqualification to get in. It's like, I'm in the welfare line, let me see your tax returns. Oh, I don't have any money. I don't have a tax return. There's nothing to return. Okay, go to the front of the line. It's something like that. Like, don't think I'm an outsider just because if you look at me, I look like one. No, I'm the most qualified because I have so little bhakti, but I have a strong desire for it. So that's what I want you to see. And of course, we know if Krishna sees the desire, he reciprocates with that, not the accomplishments. Not that he wouldn't reciprocate with accomplishments, but he also reciprocates with desire. That's the idea. Okay. So now if you scroll up, we're out of order here. If you scroll back up, you will see the first verse of the third section or third couplet or whatever we want to call it. Can you call it a couplet if there's three? Isn't a couplet two? What are we going to call it? A triplet? I need some poets here. What do you call these? What is a couplet? It's two, right? Isn't it? This is proof. I always told you I was sleeping through all my classes in school. This is proof right here that I'm not lying. Okay, we're going to make up a word. We're going to call it a triplet. Did you know that Shakespeare, when he was in school, his English teacher said, "You're useless. You might as well drop out." Did you know that? And so Shakespeare thought, I'll just make up English words, forget you guys. I'll just make up my own words, If you don't think I'm learning your words, all right. So I don't know, triplet. Usually triplets are 3 children, but we'll call this a triplet song, okay? Gopinath amara upaya nai noi tumi kripa kori amare loile shangshare udhara poy. So word meanings, amara upaya nai. I have no means of success. Tumi. Tumi kripa kori, having bestowed your mercy upon me, amara loyal, loyle. If you take me, shamshar, from this world, udarapai, then I will obtain deliverance. Translation. I have no means of success, but if you bestow your mercy upon me and take me to you, I will be delivered from this world. So this obviously is an expression of intense humility. And it's quite, in a sense, we could say, this verse is comforting because I'm sure we all feel when we do devotional service, at least at some point in our Krishna consciousness, we start realizing, you may not really, sometimes we don't realize it in the beginning of our devotional service. We start realizing later how conditioned we are, isn't it? And sometimes it's like the more you advance, the more you realize how advanced you are not. It's kind of the paradox of spiritual life. And so we start feeling, we start questioning, okay, it's moving kind of slow. Thought I was going to move faster, and I didn't realize how conditioned I am. And so you add that up, and that kind of it can make you doubt, am I actually going to make it by the end of this life? And what to speak if I die young, it doesn't seem like that's enough time. So we start questioning, how will I become successful? Because at the rate I'm going now, if I analyze the speed of my advancement and I take into account my conditioning, it doesn't seem like it seems like I need maybe a few more 100 years, doesn't it? You ever feel like that? Like, well, if I could live 300 years, maybe that would, I'd have a better chance. I want to live a long life because I need all the time I can get. So that's his mood, the feeling of, if you leave it up to me, I can't see how I will become successful on my own. I just don't have it. I was just listening last night to a talk on the history of our movement. And so there was it was a discussion with the Hridayananda Maharaj, and he was saying, and I'm sure all the gurus were feeling this, or most of them, and the ones who weren't feeling this should have been feeling this. He said, I felt that I didn't want to do this service of guru. I was only 29, I'd only been a devotee 8 years. I felt totally unqualified to do it. And, I was being encouraged to do it. GBC was encouraging me. The temple leaders in my zone were encouraging me. We have to have gurus. The disciplic succession has to go on. If we don't have gurus in ISKCON, then where will the devotees go? They'll all have to leave ISKCON to find gurus outside of ISKCON. So he was saying that, some people were of the impression that those young gurus wanted to do it, but I would say most of them felt, I don't want to do this, I'm not qualified. That's a natural feeling for a devotee, even after he's been a guru since 1977, so he's like 43 years and 44 years. And I did stay awake in my math classes. Yeah, got that one right. Okay. So after 44 years, if I had to take a guess, all those gurus are still feeling, I don't really feel qualified to do this service. So I don't know if there's ever going to be a day that comes in your life where you're actually going to feel qualified. And so the feeling of disqualification you have now, don't get your hopes up that it's going to go away anytime soon. In fact, it might get worse as you advance. Because as we said, as you advance, you become more aware of your conditioning. And as we've seen, as you advance, you become more humble because you're more aware of your conditioning. And so, we're looking at Bhaktivinoda Thakur, obviously light years ahead of us spiritually, and he's feeling this way. So it's a feeling we're just going to have to be comfortable with. But it's a feeling which is actually a symptom of Krishna consciousness, and it's necessary, right? Because what did he say? I have no means of success. When you have that feeling, that's how you become successful. Because now you're in a humble position and Krishna can empower you. That's actually the success formula, is to feel that I don't know how to be successful. And I have to, what does he say? Bestow your mercy upon me. I have no means of success. And so bestow your mercy upon me means my only means, I have no personal means of success. My only means of success is your mercy. Otherwise, we're going to lose this race back to Godhead. So, and then he's expressing a desire. Why does he want the mercy? Because he wants to go back. Wants to be delivered from this world. And then delivered from this world can be looked at in two ways. One, go back home, back to Godhead, or it can be delivered from the effects this world has on me so that I can serve you purely. Because as we know, pure devotees don't want to go back to Godhead. They just want to do what Krishna wants. And also, they don't have to go back to Godhead because as liberated, they're no longer in the world. So there's nothing to get out of anymore, right? Like we want to get out of here because our consciousness is affected by this world and we want to get out of the pain and suffering. The pure devotee is no longer affected by those things. So there's nothing to get out of, so to speak. You might say, well, they have a material body and they want to go back to Krishna. But at that point, that desire is not there anymore. At that point, there's no pressing need to get out of anything. It's just, Krishna, where do you want me to go next? What do you want me to do? So when we hear these prayers of the devotee praying to go back to Godhead, it may be that is their desire. But in a more advanced stage, it may just be that free me from the clutches of Maya, the clutches of material existence, because I just want to love you and purely serve you. If I'm under the influence of Maya, I can't do that. Correct? Does that make sense? Okay. Mhm. So, yeah, so sorry for the bad news. I give you so much bad news in every class, isn't it? But it I think it's good because it changes your expectations so you don't get let down, right? Christy's thinking, yeah, by next year, I'll be ready for sannyas, 2 years later, I'll have my own temple. And, of course, women don't take sannyas. We're just joking. But, sometimes we feel like, well, 3 years, then I'll probably be temple president. Then 6 years, maybe I could start thinking about being guru. Of course, most of you don't think that way, but we're just using that as an example that sometimes those thoughts go through our mind that because we think we're going to arrive sooner than we actually are. And so what I wanted to say was it makes expectations realistic, and realistic expectations are important. Because sometimes we become discouraged only because our expectations are not realistic. Not that anything happened wrong, isn't it? Like nothing went wrong. It's just everything went on schedule. It's just your schedule was off. You thought the plane was leaving at 1 o'clock. You didn't have your glasses on when you read the schedule. It's actually leaving at 7 o'clock. Minor detail, right? So you get to the airport, you're completely frustrated. Whereas if you knew it was leaving at 7 o'clock, no problem, right? So expectations are problematic, isn't it? So don't expect to be too Krishna conscious too fast, but enjoy the ride. That is the other half of the equation. So then we're thinking, well, if Krishna consciousness is going to be slower than I thought it was going to be, that's pretty discouraging. No, it's not, because the process is joyful. It's just the result that you're looking for, you have to have a realistic expectation. But the joyful process is always joyful, no matter the result, right? You understand? And I think this is where a lot of devotees have a problem. It's like if I don't get the result, then it kind of means I can't enjoy the process anymore, right? It's like, well, I thought I would be more Krishna conscious than this, and after years of practicing, I see that I have so many problems. As we said, sometimes I see more problems. It's discouraging. I understand that for sure, that it's discouraging. But the process is still joyful. No matter where you land on the continuum, the process is still joyful. Remember that class? I said, no matter where you are, prasadam still tastes good, doesn't it? It's like not like it tastes good for the new bhakta, it tastes good for the medium, the bhakta in the middle, and it tastes good for the bhakta on the high end. It always tastes good. And so in a similar way, devotional service is also tasty, despite where we sit on the map. So that's important because that could inhibit our ability to relish Krishna consciousness, because we're not where we want to be or expect to be. And I've really gone through this. I've psychoanalyzed this for my own survival, basically. Because it's a constant it's a constant problem. You're always thinking, well, by next year I should be on this level. And then the next year comes and it's like, I'm worse off than I was last year. That ever happened to you? You actually go down. It's like, how did that happen? I don't think we're actually going down. I think we're just actually becoming aware of how down we were that we weren't aware of before. But yes, it is possible that some attachments or desires do come up later on in Krishna consciousness. And, in my analysis of it, in thinking of it, it's kind of like sitting in traffic. You know what it's like to sit in traffic, especially on a street that never had traffic before, right? There's some road construction or accident. And I think one of the most frustrating things for all of us, for devotees, non-devotees, is to sit in a line that's not going anywhere, isn't it? That's like up there with getting your tooth pulled in terms of mental agony, isn't it? Like it's a big long line at the grocery store and it's not moving. How does that make you feel? Right? Yeah, it's like you want to scream, isn't it? Sometimes you feel, yeah, I want to scream. I want to find the store manager. Open up more aisles. What's wrong with you? It's frustrating. People don't like sitting in lines that don't move. And now we're in this line of bhakti, and sometimes it feels like it's not moving, and sometimes it feels like it's moving backwards. 10 people jumped in front of you. It's going to take you longer to get to the front. And then there's the like, what's the use? Like, okay, if this is what's going on, what's the use? But it's still enjoyable. So why should I give up? Stay in the car, make it through the traffic. You'll get where you're going. You're going to do something enjoyable. Okay, so don't give up. Or what some people would say is, well, just have fun in the car while you're waiting. Or put on a lecture and learn something. While you're waiting. Oh, okay, there's a traffic jam. That gives me extra 15 minutes that I'm going to listen to this little lecture or this little YouTube video I wanted to see. It's like shift. So that's the idea. Like, enjoy the ride. It's a good ride. And so my psychoanalysis of it was, well, wherever I am at is where I'm at, and I can't change where I'm at. So it's kind of stupid to be going crazy about where I'm at. What about this brilliant idea? How about just accepting it? Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I think I'll do that. It only took me like 40 years to figure that one out. So, I'm a slow learner. And I think it's because it's hard to admit that where I'm at is where I'm at, isn't it? Sometimes it's like, why are we having such a hard time accepting ourselves? Because the location on the GPS of where we are isn't where we want to be. And it's kind of like we don't want to acknowledge it, isn't it? Like, that's actually where I am? Oh, that's depressing. No, Prabhu, that's where you are. It's neither depressing or not depressing. It's just where you are. And they have this thing in Buddhism, which I think is very helpful for us. I mean, it's Krishna conscious, but it's not something that's taught so directly in Krishna consciousness. It's there, but it's not taught as they teach it in Buddhism. And it can be very life-saving in a sense for your consciousness, is don't put labels on things. Sometimes, something just is, but you put a label on it. Like, it's not this, what is just is not good. And then I say, no, it's not good or bad, it just is. And you say, no, it's not good. And so when you say, no, it's not good, how do you feel? Not so good, right? Whereas if you say, it's not good, it's not bad, it's just, this is what it is, then you can deal with it, right? Okay, this is here you are on the GPS. It's not good. No, it's not bad, it's not good, it's just where you are right now. But I'm late, that's bad. Okay, I understand that. But guess what? You're going to be late because this is where you are now, and there's a lot of cars not moving in front of you. So as you go through it in your mind, when you finally acknowledge, accept, okay, I'm going to be late, you call, tell everyone, it's like, okay, it's just what it is. At that point, when you accept it, you're okay, isn't it? You stop labeling it bad. So I think a lot of us have a tendency to label our level of advancement as bad. Well, I have some news for you. In 10 years, you're probably going to be more advanced, and it's very easy to label that as bad. Although if you look at that advancement now, from your perspective, you would say, well, if I was there, that would be good. But the fact is, when you get there, you're going to think, that's bad, right? Because I don't have prema, so it's bad. Or okay, anything less than bhava. All right, we'll go one higher, asakti. Anything less than asakti, which is almost bhava, is bad. But when you get to asakti, then you're going to think, you may think, but I don't have bhava, so it's bad. And you get to bhava and you're going to think, I don't have prema because it's bad. And then you get to prema and you'll think, you know, there's different levels of prema and I'm only on the first level, so that's bad. So like, when are you going to stop thinking it's bad? Like, I mean, it's kind of a, it's kind of a standard material way of thinking, because wherever you are materially on the map, there's always a higher place to be, right? So let's say Tanya works, she's really good. She's starting a business, it's like amazing. 3 years from now, she makes $1 million. And she's thinking, you know, that's okay, but good business, if I were actually a good business person, I would have made at least 50 million by now. So she's looking at all the people that make 50 million a year, and she's kind of thinking, I'm not, you know, I want to be like them. So 5 years later, she makes 50 million. And then she starts putting her eyes on the likes of Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Steve Jobs, and like, those guys are making hundreds, and our friend from Amazon, those guys in a different league. I'm basically a loser at 50 million a year. And Christie's thinking, well, if you think you're a loser, I'll take it. You know, if that's what you call a loser, you know, give me some of your loser money, you know. I'll just take 1 million. I'll be happy with that. That'll keep me going for like 10 years. And Tanya's going, 50 million? That's nothing. What can you get for 50 million? One mansion and one yacht. That's it. So her thinking is in a different league. She's looking, right? She's comparing herself. So as you go up in the world materially, your comparisons change. So the comparison of I'd like to make 1 million, that would be incredible. When you make it is like big deal. There's people making 50 million. Then your comparisons go up. And so this way, unless you're the top dog, and who wants to be a dog anyway, but unless you're the top dog, you're thinking, I'm a loser, even though you're making millions of dollars and you're famous. It's possible, right? Isn't it? You understand, right? So that that same mentality can infest us spiritually, that no matter how advanced we are, well, I'm not advanced as that one, and it doesn't even feel advanced because you're becoming humble, so it's not going to feel advanced. So it's just like this paradox. You're always going to be like, when am I going to be advanced? Know that you are advanced. That's why you feel you're not advanced, but it doesn't feel like I'm advanced because I don't feel advanced. And I'm telling you are advanced. And it's like, oh, right. Just be quiet. I don't want to hear it. I don't feel advanced. You know, don't talk to me about it. So that's just, you know, it's just the way it's going to be. And so we have to get used to that. It's just, that's life, ladies and gentlemen. Right? That's just life, you know, take it as it comes, right? So, but at the same time, it's good, as we're saying. And why is it good? It's good because it empowers us to be dependent on Krishna, and it keeps us humble. You know, we told that story many times of the disciples who went to Bhaktisiddhanta and said, 20 years we've been chanting, we have no taste. He said, very good. So that's a very important story for us. And then they said, why? Very good. He said, well, if you came to me and said, we're chanting, we have a lot of taste and we're very advanced, I would have said, very bad. Why very bad? Because you become proud. But the fact you think you have no taste and you're not doing well shows me you're making advancement. That's why I said very good. So it's humility. So feel, you know, I feel I'm not very advanced, then I feel like saying, congratulations. that you feel that way. That's good. Guru Maharaj, I'm making lots of advancements. I'm one of the most advanced devotees in Lithuania. I'm one of the most advanced devotees in Russia. All the other devotees, they have no taste for chanting. I can just see it when they chant. They're just bored. But I actually have taste. I'm relishing it. And these poor other devotees, I don't know what's going to happen to them. I think, oh, fantastic. I'm so happy to see that you're advancing. I don't think I would think that way. But when you come and say, I'm not very advanced, I'm always praying to Krishna to help me, and I'm really trying sincerely, but I see I just don't have much sincerity, and I don't know how I'm going to make it. And I'm just, I go, very good, doing really well. Really happy to hear that you're completely miserable. That makes me really happy because I know you're in a good place to make advancement. Okay, I'm not happy that you're miserable, but I'm happy that you feel helpless. Yes. Okay, so we have a comment. I think that's clear, right? Yes. One devotee in his offering to Srila Prabhupada said something like, when I got initiated, I was young and stupid. Now, so many years later, that I'm much older, but still stupid. Yeah. I was thinking he was going to say, when I got initiated, I was young and stupid. Now, so many years later, I'm much older and much more stupid. What's that? But that actually becomes your qualification because it's your qualification, but it's also a symptom of your advancement that you feel that way. Of course, that's a personal, it's not that we call this devotee stupid, or he wants us to call him stupid, but it's his personal realization that advancement it happens slowly, but at least the traffic is moving. You ever been in traffic and it's like moving, you're on the freeway or whatever you call it in your country, the motorway, the highway, expressway, what else do they call it? Is there another name? What do you call it in your country? The tollway. We call it in America the freeway or the tollway. Free, you don't pay. Toll, you do. You think in England, they call it the motorway, right? Have different names for different, But so you're on the motorway and you're going 5 miles an hour. Or if you think in kilometers, that's about 8 kilometers an hour. And you're like frustrated. And your friend who you hate, when he says this, he says, well, at least we're moving. Ah, shut up, I want to be going faster. Well, at least you're moving, you're getting there. So sometimes spiritual life is like that. It's not as fast, but at least we're moving somewhere. And if you're doing devotional service, you are moving, even if you don't notice it. If you're doing it right, you are moving. So if you feel you're not moving, it's not such a bad thing. It will keep you humble, but just don't allow it to discourage you. That's the point, right? Just and think, okay, this feeling I have, it's kind of normal. I'm probably going to feel it even when I'm a pure devotee, so I better get used to it. But it's actually a sign in many ways. In most cases, it's a sign of advancement. Could be a sign of some psychological problem also. That's another issue. But we all feel this way and we're all not crazy. So it is a sign of spiritual advancement that you'll just feel that way. And so that can be good. Okay. We have, So, and Tanya says, as long as we don't jump off the boat. Yeah, that's the problem. When things get so bad and you become so discouraged, you want to say, what's the use? So, then the question we could ask, how to be discouraged and not be discouraged? How can I, because what I just talked about is kind of discouraging in a sense to actually accept it, that the car is going 5 miles an hour is kind of frustrating. But how to remain encouraged? Well, at least it's moving. Okay, it's moving. All right. Well, that's better than not moving, right? Okay. 5 miles an hour is better than 0 miles an hour. So in your mind, you have to adjust things in a way that no matter what is happening, you can still be enthusiastic. That's very important. And so I've always tried to do that myself. No matter what is going on, we have to remain enthusiastic. And I was just thinking today of, or maybe it was last night, of Prabhupada's position, right? So if you know the story, there's one aspect of the story of Prabhupada in his first coming to New York that's significant for me anyway. So he sizes everything up, and it becomes evident at one point that America is ripe for Krishna consciousness, because he didn't know that. When he came, he was coming to find out. He really didn't know. And he doubted. There were doubts. I don't know what percent he thought it could happen, what percent he thought it couldn't happen. But there were definitely doubts, and definitely there was a reality lurking, a possible reality lurking ahead that it wouldn't happen, and he would go back to Vrindavan, and he wouldn't be able to fulfill the mission of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. So that was definitely there. But at a certain point, it was obviously obvious, if that's proper English. It was obvious. I guess that's redundant. At a certain point, it was obvious. He saw people taking to Krishna consciousness. So this was a bit of an epiphany for him, in the sense that this is going to work. Like Mahaprabhu's prediction, it's like now it can happen. And we're fulfilling the desire of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. This is what he wanted. And he did tell us that the Westerners would take to it. If they did take to it, they would be even better devotees, or they would take to it more from an intellectual conviction than the Indians, who already were born into it, who maybe not intellectually as convinced as someone who wasn't born into it, because they had to go through the intellectual process to believe it. So then what he does is, in his excitement, he's writing back to his godbrothers saying, I'll say it in more of a modern English, like how, let's say, I would say it if it were 2021, and let's say I went to some country no devotee has ever been to, and it's like huge. The president is inviting me to consult him. I'm giving talks in parliament. I fall asleep on the bus. People wake me up, say, tell me about Bhagavad Gita. It's like, oh my Govinda, this is amazing. Well, this country's amazing. We could actually run this country. So imagine that's me, 2021, some country. Well, we'll pick a country. Let's say Madagascar, or some little island somewhere. You don't even know where Madagascar is, do you? It's not such a little island. It's actually bigger than England. And then I start writing my godbrothers. Come, this is huge. This could be the first Krishna conscious country in the world. We could have a Krishna conscious country in the United Nations. We can have ambassadors in Washington, D.C., and London. We can have our own money, Prabhupada on it. It's like, and I get no response from anyone. But we have our preaching projects here. We can't help you. Well, can you send some of your disciples to help? This is huge. Sorry, we can't. And then you hear through the grapevine that they're criticizing you for what you're doing, the way you're preaching. That's exactly what Prabhupada went through. No help. Not that everyone criticized, but no one really helped. I mean, slight help, some well wishes, good wishes from a few. Narayan Maharaj helped. He sent some things to Prabhupada. Some godbrothers appreciated, but the kind of help he wanted was he wanted people. He wanted them. Come, let's do this. This is amazing. We can take over this place. He didn't get it. So that was discouraging for sure. And then he got the discouraging words, the criticisms. And it was And I was thinking today, was Prabhupada upset about that? Yeah, I was going like, does the pure devotee get upset? Or do we want to make the pure devotee like a stone, like he doesn't feel anything? And I don't think we want to go there. And so my conclusion was, yes, Prabhupada must have felt extremely discouraged by that. I don't think there's any question. I mean, we can't say he wasn't discouraged. He didn't act in a discouraged way, that's for sure. He didn't show discouragement. But I don't think we can say he wasn't discouraged. I don't think we can say he wasn't hurt by that. I don't think we could say he didn't feel sad by that. I think we could say he felt all those things. He had to. He was so excited about the prospects and he wasn't getting any reciprocation, nothing, or almost nothing. And then getting criticism. And what did Prabhupada do? In spite of that, he just continued. He didn't jump off the boat. He didn't jump off the boat of his guru's mission, despite all that. And so I think that's such a beautiful example, how you can feel all these things. And I mean, if you ask me to bet my life savings, was Prabhupada feeling these things? I would bet all of them that he was. There's this poem. What's the name of the poem? Viraha Ashtaka. Viraha means separation. Ashtaka means 8 shlokas, 8 verses. Ashta, Ashtakam. And Prabhupada's expressing his disappointment in how the Gaudiya Math, what became of the Gaudiya Math after Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disappearance. He's showing this great bereavement, depression, frustration, however you want to see it. He was just feeling horrible. So it's not that because you're a pure devotee, you don't feel these emotions. But these emotions don't derail your service to your guru, your affection, your dedication, and so on. But you do feel them. So you will feel so many things. It's natural. You will feel discouraged by your own, just look at your own heart, that's discouraging. Or if you ever become a leader, you will be criticized. I will guarantee you in writing, if you become a leader, you're going to get criticized. Well, you don't even have to become a leader to get criticized, but I will guarantee when you become a leader, you will be criticized for things you didn't even do wrong. Guaranteed in writing. How does that make you feel? You're giving your life to serving Prabhupada and you're getting criticized for it. How does that make you feel? Not so happy, right? But still, we have to be able to continue enthusiastically in spite of the fact that maybe I did my best and somebody's faulting me for it. As I say, we could write a book or do a movie called Welcome to the Material World. And for everything that happens in your life for which your response is, that's not fair, then in the movie, the little flash comes up, welcome to the material world. That's par for the course. That's what happens in the material world. Correct? So these are important things to meditate on. Okay. And for all of you who think you're losers, welcome to the club of losers. And I hate to say it, but the more you become Krishna conscious, the more you may feel you're a loser. So get used to it. That's all I can say. At the same time, I always think, this is my meditation, I always think, we have Srila Prabhupada. That's so amazing. Like, who has a guru like that? Like, nobody, right? And so, so whatever bad you are and whatever bad happens to you, the fact that you have that relationship It's so amazing. It just counters everything that could go wrong, isn't it? Okay, so what we're going to do now, Nadia, is go off Facebook and reappear, I guess. Does that also start a new YouTube? Like,
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. Oh, YouTube. I don't know the answer to YouTube. We don't have to go off.
I
We
mean,
just have to
a new
stop.
Zoom. Do you have
No, we just have to stop broadcasting.